Something truly powerful is happening in the skies right now, an astrological shift that only happens once every 29 years. Today, we're diving deep into the rare and transformative energy of Saturn in Pisces. This isn't just any transit. It's a moment in time that carries with it the potential for deep personal transformation, spiritual awakening, and emotional healing. So if you've been feeling a pull towards introspection, a desire for clarity, or a need to heal, this is the perfect time to embrace what Saturn in Pisces has to offer. Let's start by understanding what this rare alignment means. Saturn, the planet of discipline, structure, and karmic lessons, is moving into the mystical and intuitive sign of Pisces. Saturn is often associated with boundaries, limitations, and life lessons that push us to grow, while Pisces is known for its dreamy, spiritual, and emotional depths. When these two energies come together, it creates a powerful opportunity for transformation that's both profound and sometimes challenging. Saturn's energy typically encourages us to focus on practical matters, our careers, our responsibilities, and our long-term goals. It is the teacher, the taskmaster, and the builder. Saturn brings a grounded, structured influence that pushes us to face reality head-on and to build something that will last. However, when Saturn enters Pisces, it's like this powerful force is working through a soft, compassionate, and imaginative lens. Pisces encourages us to tap into our intuition, our dreams, and our emotional truths. This combination of energy is a call to integrate the practical with the spiritual. We're being asked to confront our fears and illusions, to shed the layers that no longer serve us, and to rebuild our foundations in a way that aligns with our soul's deeper purpose. It's a time to acknowledge that our emotional and spiritual well-being is just as important as our material success. The universe is asking us to find balance and to build a life that honors both our practical needs and our emotional, spiritual desires. With Saturn in Pisces, we may experience challenges related to escapism or self-deception. Pisces is a sign that can sometimes blur the lines between reality and fantasy, and Saturn's task is to help us ground those dreams into reality. If you've been avoiding emotional healing, if there's a part of you that has been refusing to face the truth, Saturn in Pisces will shine a light on those areas, pushing you to confront them head-on. This transit isn't about easy fixes. It is about facing the uncomfortable truths and using that energy to rebuild something more aligned with who we truly are. During this period, you may feel like the universe is asking you to let go of old emotional patterns, past wounds, or limiting beliefs that have been holding you back. It's a time of clearing, of releasing, and of rebuilding yourself from the inside out. This may not be a comfortable process, but it is deeply necessary. It's about creating space for a new foundation to emerge, one that's rooted in authenticity, healing, and spiritual growth. At its best, Saturn in Pisces is a transit that invites us to merge the practical with the spiritual, to take our dreams seriously, and to begin working on them with discipline and patience. It's a time when we can turn our spiritual insights into tangible results, transforming the intangible into something solid. It is about creating a life that is not just successful, but meaningful, a life that nourishes both the material and the spiritual aspects of our being. But let us be clear, this isn't a time for impulsive actions or fleeting desires. Saturn asks for patience, commitment, and hard work. As Saturn moves through Pisces, we are being challenged to stay grounded while we explore our deeper, more intuitive selves. It's a time to honor both our dreams and the reality we need to work with. This is not about escaping the harshness of life, but learning to navigate it with grace, understanding, and emotional resilience. So, how can you make the most of Saturn's transit through Pisces? First, take some time to reflect on your own emotional and spiritual life. Are there any areas where you've been avoiding deeper healing or confronting painful truths? Are there dreams or goals that you've put on hold because they felt too big or unrealistic? Saturn in Pisces is here to remind you that it's time to face those dreams and work toward making them real. It's time to take what feels intangible and bring it into the physical realm, using your practical skills and your spiritual insights. Next, focus on developing a deeper sense of self-discipline when it comes to your emotional well-being. Pisces encourages us to connect with our feelings, but Saturn asks us to approach this process with a sense of structure and purpose. Perhaps this means setting boundaries with yourself or others, taking time for spiritual practices, or committing to a journey of self-healing. This is a time to create balance, honoring your emotional needs while also staying grounded in the practical steps you need to take to move forward in your life. Another key aspect of Saturn in Pisces is spiritual growth. This is a time when you may feel drawn to explore your spiritual beliefs, connect with higher wisdom, or deepen your connection with the universe. Pisces is a deeply spiritual sign, and Saturn's influence is encouraging you to build a solid spiritual foundation that will support you in times of difficulty. Whether through meditation, prayer, or simply spending time in nature, find ways to nourish your soul and create space for inner peace. Lastly, don't be afraid to embrace the unknown. Saturn is all about building structures and foundations, but Pisces encourages us to trust in the mystery of life. Sometimes you won't have all the answers, and that's okay. Trust that the universe is guiding you toward exactly where you need to be, even if the path isn't entirely clear. Embrace the unknown with an open heart and know that every step you take is part of the larger picture. Saturn's transit through Pisces is a rare and powerful opportunity to transform your life. It's a time for deep emotional healing, spiritual awakening, and the grounding of your dreams. While the process may be challenging, the rewards are immense. If you can face your fears, honor your emotions, and commit to creating a life that aligns with your soul's true purpose, the universe will support you every step of the way. This is a time to embrace change, to trust the journey, and to build a foundation that will carry you into the future with strength, clarity, and purpose. Let go of what's no longer serving you, face the truths you've been avoiding, and step into your true power. This is your time to heal, to grow, and to transform into the person you were always meant to be. Saturn in Pisces is here to help you make it happen. Saturn's influence in astrology is often seen as a force that shapes our lives through discipline, structure, and responsibility. It's the planet of hard lessons, teaching us how to build a strong foundation and deal with the limitations we may encounter. Saturn's role is not to coddle, but to make us work for what we want, to show us that growth comes from commitment, persistence, and the ability to confront challenges head-on. This influence forces us to face our limitations, whether they are physical, emotional, or mental. Through this process, we learn the importance of responsibility and the value of hard work, often discovering new strength we never knew we had. When Saturn moves through a particular sign, it brings specific lessons related to the energy and characteristics of that sign. In the case of Pisces, Saturn's energy shifts significantly. Pisces, the 12th sign of the zodiac, is connected to the subconscious, dreams, spirituality, and the intangible realms of emotion and intuition. It's a sign that deals with matters beyond the physical, pointing us toward the realms of the unseen and the unspoken. When Saturn passes through Pisces, it brings a unique energy that does not focus on the external world of achievement, success, or material goals. Instead, this transit calls us to focus on our internal world, inviting us to explore and navigate the depths of our emotions, intuition, and spiritual journey. This is a period where we are asked to look beyond the surface of things Saturn in Pisces encourages us to go inward and confront the hidden parts of ourselves. It brings to the forefront the emotions and spiritual aspects of our lives that may have been neglected or buried. Where Saturn in other signs might ask us to focus on practical and material concerns, Saturn in Pisces asks us to be introspective, to explore our emotional landscape, and to face any unresolved emotional wounds. This transit highlights the need for healing, urging us to confront the fears and insecurities we may have ignored for too long. As Saturn moves through Pisces, there is an invitation to embrace the deeper emotional and spiritual dimensions of life. It is a time for us to reflect on our past emotional experiences and recognize the areas where we've been avoiding healing. This transit isn't about making external progress in the usual sense, but about making strides in our emotional and spiritual lives. It asks us to take responsibility for our own healing process, to acknowledge the emotional baggage we carry, and to begin releasing it with intention and patience. It calls us to look at the ways in which we have been disconnected from our own emotions and the ways we've perhaps avoided doing the necessary inner work to move forward. With Saturn's energy in Pisces, we are also encouraged to set new intentions for emotional growth and spiritual development. While Pisces is known for its connection to the dream world, the spiritual realm, and the unconscious mind, Saturn's disciplined and structured influence helps us bring focus and intention to these areas. This transit encourages us to approach our emotional and spiritual journeys with a sense of responsibility and purpose. It is not enough to simply feel our emotions or dream our dreams. We are being asked to actively engage with them, to work through the things that hold us back, and to seek growth in the unseen realms of our lives. There is also an emphasis on the need for patience. Saturn in Pisces requires that we be patient with ourselves as we go through this healing process. Emotions and spiritual growth are not things that can be rushed, and the lessons that Saturn brings require a long-term, steady commitment. This is not a quick fix, but rather a slow and steady process of growth and healing. Saturn urges us to be disciplined in our emotional and spiritual work, just as it would ask us to be disciplined in our professional or physical goals. It asks us to make the time for this work, to show up for ourselves consistently, and to be honest about the areas in our lives that require attention. At the same time, Saturn's transit through Pisces brings a call to action. It asks us to move beyond passive acceptance and to take responsibility for our own healing. This may involve confronting painful memories, old fears, or unresolved emotional issues. It is not a time for avoidance or escapism, which can be tempting when Pisces' dreamy and sometimes escapist qualities are at play. Instead, Saturn in Pisces asks us to engage with the difficult parts of our inner world in a constructive way. It might mean facing the things we've been running from or acknowledging our vulnerabilities. The key to this transit is honesty and integrity with ourselves. We must be willing to face the emotional truths we may have avoided for too long. As Saturn moves through Pisces, there is also a sense of spiritual awakening and growth. Pisces is a deeply spiritual sign, connected to the unseen forces of the universe, and Saturn's influence here can lead to profound spiritual insights and realizations. However, this awakening is not about escaping the realities of life. Rather, it is about integrating our spiritual beliefs with the practical aspects of our existence. Saturn in Pisces invites us to embody our spiritual truths and bring them into our everyday lives. This means practicing what we preach, not just in terms of our actions, but also in terms of our thoughts and beliefs. This transit also brings an opportunity for emotional discipline. Saturn's role in astrology is to teach us how to structure and discipline our lives, and in Pisces, this manifests in the realm of emotions. We are invited to learn how to handle our emotional responses with maturity, to understand the deeper roots of our feelings, and to develop emotional resilience. It's about learning how to not be overwhelmed by emotions, but instead to use them as tools for personal growth and understanding. In essence, Saturn in Pisces asks us to be disciplined in our inner work, to face our emotional and spiritual challenges with courage, and to commit to our healing and growth. This transit is not about achieving outward success, but about cultivating inner strength, emotional maturity, and spiritual wisdom. It invites us to dive into the depths of our psyche, confront the fears and insecurities that have held us back, and emerge from the process more whole, more grounded, and more spiritually attuned. The lessons of Saturn in Pisces are not always easy, but they are deeply transformative, offering us the chance to build a solid inner foundation that will support us through the many challenges of life. Pisces is a sign deeply tied to the realms of dreams, intuition, and the subconscious. It represents the fluid, emotional, and spiritual aspects of our lives, connecting us to the unseen and often mysterious elements of our inner world. As a water sign, Pisces is inherently linked to emotions, sensitivity, and a deep understanding of the soul's needs. It's a sign that operates on a level that goes beyond the physical, pulling us into the depths of our unconscious minds, where we find our hidden desires, fears, and spiritual truths. The energy of Pisces is often described as ethereal, connected to things that are not always easy to grasp or define, but are deeply felt on an intuitive level. When Saturn moves into Pisces, the energy shifts in a way that asks us to bring structure and discipline to these areas that are typically free-flowing and unpredictable. Saturn, the planet of discipline, structure, and responsibility, is known for its ability to create order out of chaos. When Saturn moves into a sign like Pisces, which is naturally more fluid and unstructured, the effect can be profound. We are called to bring a level of order and intentionality to the more intangible aspects of our lives, particularly our emotional health, spiritual practices, and dreams. While Pisces invites us to dive into the depths of our subconscious, Saturn's presence in this sign challenges us to approach this journey with the same level of discipline and responsibility that we apply to the more external aspects of our lives. It is as if Saturn is telling us that in order to heal fully, we must establish some boundaries in our emotional and spiritual worlds, which are typically characterized by a lack of rigid structure. This balance, though delicate, is necessary for growth. This transit offers an invitation to examine the hidden aspects of our being, urging us to explore the realms of our subconscious and our dreams. Saturn in Pisces compels us to go beyond mere emotional exploration and to engage with the deeper layers of our psyche. It's not simply about acknowledging our fears, it's about confronting them directly, understanding their roots, and learning from them. This energy urges us to face the difficult and sometimes uncomfortable feelings we tend to avoid and to use them as catalysts for self-discovery. By doing so, we can build emotional and spiritual foundations that are more resilient, grounded, and authentic. Saturn's influence in Pisces pushes us to dig deeper, to understand not just the surface of our emotional and spiritual experiences, but the intricate layers that lie beneath. It encourages us to examine the fears, insecurities, and vulnerabilities that often remain hidden in the subconscious. Rather than avoiding these parts of ourselves, Saturn in Pisces teaches us to confront them head-on, to learn from them, and ultimately to build a stronger, more secure, emotional and spiritual foundation. The work that Saturn asks of us during this transit is not easy. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. Yet through this process, we have the opportunity to heal, to release old emotional wounds, and to create a more harmonious connection with our inner world. When Saturn moves through Pisces, it also encourages us to examine our relationship with spirituality. Pisces is a deeply spiritual sign, and Saturn's presence here calls us to take our spiritual practices seriously. This doesn't necessarily mean adhering to any particular dogma, but it does ask us to commit to our personal spiritual growth with the same discipline that we would apply to any other area of our lives. Whether we are practicing meditation, connecting with nature, or exploring other forms of spiritual expression, Saturn in Pisces invites us to approach these practices with intention, consistency, and responsibility. It challenges us to build a solid spiritual foundation that can support us through life's ups and downs, rather than relying on fleeting or superficial connections to the divine. In this transit, there is also an emphasis on the role of boundaries in our emotional and spiritual worlds. Pisces, as a sign of boundless connection and empathy, can sometimes lead us to feel overwhelmed by the emotions of others or to lose ourselves in the vast ocean of the unconscious mind. Saturn's discipline provides a necessary counterbalance, encouraging us to establish healthy boundaries that allow us to engage with the world around us without losing our sense of self. This is not about shutting ourselves off from others or becoming emotionally distant, but rather about learning how to protect our emotional energy and avoid becoming consumed by the emotional turbulence of those around us. By setting these boundaries, we can create space for emotional healing and spiritual growth without becoming overwhelmed by external influences. Saturn in Pisces also asks us to approach our emotional and spiritual healing with patience and maturity. This is not a quick fix transit. It's a long-term process of growth and self-discovery. Saturn teaches us that true healing takes time and effort, and it requires us to be disciplined and consistent in our inner work. Whether we are working through old emotional wounds, exploring the depths of our subconscious, or developing our spiritual practices, Saturn's influence urges us to approach this process with steady determination and a willingness to do the work required. The lessons of Saturn in Pisces are not always easy, but they are deeply transformative, offering us the chance to rebuild our emotional and spiritual lives in a way that is more authentic, grounded, and resilient. This alignment also asks us to reconsider how we relate to our dreams, both literal and metaphorical. Pisces, as a sign of dreams and imagination, invites us to explore the realm of our inner visions, fantasies, and aspirations. Saturn's presence here reminds us that dreams are not just fleeting thoughts or whims. They can be powerful tools for personal growth and self-awareness. By paying attention to our dreams, we can uncover hidden truths about ourselves and gain valuable insights into our subconscious desires, fears, and unresolved emotions. Saturn in Pisces encourages us to bring structure to these dreams, to take them seriously, and to use them as a guide for our personal transformation. Through this transit, we learn that healing is not a linear process, and it is not something that happens overnight. It is a journey that requires us to face our fears, to confront the parts of ourselves that we would rather ignore, and to approach our emotional and spiritual work with discipline, patience, and understanding. Saturn in Pisces teaches us that true growth comes from facing the uncomfortable, from setting boundaries that protect our emotional and spiritual energy, and from taking responsibility for our own healing. It is a time to build a stronger connection to our inner world and to create a foundation that can support us in all aspects of life. As Saturn continues its transit through Pisces, it brings with it an energy that is deeply transformative. This period is not about immediate gratification or surface-level success. It is about deep, personal growth and emotional healing. Saturn, as the planet of discipline and responsibility, moves through Pisces, a sign that represents the subconscious, dreams, and emotional depths, creating a unique opportunity for those willing to engage in the healing process. For many, this transit will serve as a catalyst for confronting long-buried fears, negative thought patterns, and emotional wounds that have kept us trapped in the past. These issues may have been suppressed or ignored for years, but Saturn's influence will not let us avoid them any longer. The challenges this transit presents may feel difficult and intense, but they are ultimately meant to help us move forward. Saturn in Pisces asks us to be honest with ourselves about our emotional state and confront the areas of our lives where we've been avoiding healing. This might be an emotional wound that we've carried for years, or a fear that has been buried deep within us. Saturn does not offer an easy path. It encourages us to face these uncomfortable truths head-on, without the possibility of escape. The beauty of Saturn's role, however, is that while it pushes us to confront these difficult emotions, it also provides the tools we need to heal. Saturn doesn't just bring up the darkness, it offers us the structure and discipline to navigate through it. It teaches us how to take responsibility for our own healing, guiding us toward healthier emotional and spiritual practices. By helping us build emotional resilience and stability, Saturn shows us that we have the power to create lasting change in our lives. This period might bring a heightened awareness of our emotions. Saturn's influence can feel like a heavy burden at times, and we may find ourselves feeling more sensitive or overwhelmed than usual. Emotions that were once buried deep within may surface, and we may experience moments of emotional turmoil or vulnerability. Saturn's purpose is not to make us suffer, though. It is to push us toward growth. The emotions that surface during this time are not obstacles to our progress, but signs of the areas in our lives that are ready to be healed. Saturn's role is to help us build a foundation of emotional stability, and to do so, we must first address the emotional wounds that have been left untreated. This period asks us to take responsibility for our emotional health in a way that we may not have done before. We are called to do the hard work of healing and to face the aspects of ourselves that we have avoided for too long. The key to Saturn's transit through Pisces is transformation. This is not about difficulty for the sake of difficulty. It is about profound change. Saturn's energy encourages us to dig deep, to confront the parts of ourselves that we may have hidden or neglected, and to bring those aspects into the light. While this can feel overwhelming at times, it is ultimately for our own good. By facing our fears, insecurities, and emotional baggage, we are given the opportunity to heal and transform. Saturn provides the discipline and structure needed to make lasting changes, offering us the tools to reshape our emotional and spiritual lives. The changes we make during this transit are not quick fixes. They are lasting transformations that will require patience, consistency, and a willingness to engage in the process. If we put in the effort, Saturn promises to guide us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and a more stable, grounded emotional life. One of the most important lessons Saturn in Pisces offers is the development of empathy and compassion. This period encourages us to look inward and acknowledge the emotional wounds that we carry. By confronting these wounds, we develop a deeper understanding of our own vulnerabilities. This self-awareness can lead to a greater sense of compassion for ourselves, allowing us to heal old wounds with kindness and patience. As we learn to be gentle with ourselves, we also develop a greater capacity for empathy toward others. The emotional healing we experience during this time does not just benefit us, it also deepens our connections with those around us. By confronting our own fears and insecurities, we become more understanding of the struggles of others, fostering compassion and emotional connection. Saturn's influence during this transit is like a steady force that builds a solid emotional foundation. While it may challenge us to address difficult emotions, it also helps us cultivate the resilience and strength needed to navigate through them. By facing our emotional baggage with discipline and responsibility, we are given the chance to create a more stable emotional life, one that is built on honesty, integrity, and self-compassion. This period offers a unique opportunity for growth, as it asks us to take full responsibility for our emotional and spiritual well-being. It is not about avoiding pain or discomfort. It's about using these experiences as stepping stones toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and a stronger emotional foundation. Saturn in Pisces does not promise an easy road, but it does offer lasting rewards for those who are willing to put in the work. As we confront our deepest fears and wounds, we are given the opportunity to grow in ways that we may not have thought possible. This transit asks us to dig deep into our emotional and spiritual lives, to face the parts of ourselves that we often keep hidden, and to emerge from the process with a deeper sense of self-awareness and emotional maturity. It's a time for growth, healing, and transformation, if we are brave enough to embrace it. This is a period unlike any other, a time when you are being called inward, where the possibility of real healing and deep transformation lies open before you. The energy around you is urging you toward practices that restore balance, calm, and emotional clarity. You may find yourself naturally drawn to methods of self-care that you might have overlooked before, and that's not by accident. This is Saturn's way of guiding you. Practices like meditation, mindfulness, and breathwork may begin to feel not just beneficial, but necessary. They become the tools you reach for when the weight of emotions becomes too heavy, or when your inner world begins to feel too loud. You might notice that even gentle forms of movement, like yoga, walking, or simply sitting quietly with your breath, have a calming influence on your spirit. These are not random urges. They are your soul responding to the energy that Saturn in Pisces brings. This is also a time when creative expression can become a powerful outlet. Whether through painting, writing, music, or dance, the act of creation becomes more than just a hobby. It becomes therapy. It becomes a sacred dialogue between your inner world and the outer world, where unspoken feelings are given color, rhythm, and form. The emotions you've held inside, the ones too complex to explain in words, can begin to flow through your hands, your voice, or your pen. This is healing in its truest form. It is subtle, personal, and powerful. The more you allow yourself to explore these avenues, the more you begin to connect with the core of who you are. Creative practices align beautifully with the energy of Pisces, which thrives in fluidity and emotional depth. Saturn's presence here may at first seem restrictive, but what it's really doing is helping you structure your healing, giving your emotional and spiritual process a container to grow within. At the same time, this period asks you to slow down and turn inward. The answers you seek are no longer outside of you. They are hidden in quiet moments of reflection, in the dreams that visit you during sleep, and in the silences between your thoughts. Journaling can be an especially useful practice now, not just a space to vent emotions, but a place to discover your inner truth. When you put your thoughts and feelings into words, you begin to see patterns. You uncover what triggers certain responses in you, what beliefs you've been holding on to, and where healing is most needed. This is not an exercise in overthinking, but rather a practice of honest self-exploration. Through journaling, you allow your subconscious to rise to the surface, making the hidden visible and the invisible understood. That's where real transformation begins, when you finally start seeing yourself clearly, without judgment and with compassion. Dreams, too, become potent messengers during this time. Saturn in Pisces brings a heightened sensitivity to the symbolic and the spiritual, making it easier for intuitive insights to come through. Pay attention to the images, emotions, and scenarios that unfold in your dreams. They are not random, they are reflections of your inner world trying to speak to you. You might find it helpful to keep a dream journal, recording what you remember the moment you wake up. Over time, themes and symbols may start to emerge, offering guidance and revealing emotional truths that are ready to be faced. This dream work isn't about interpreting dreams in a rigid way, but about building a relationship with your own inner symbolism. It is a way of understanding how your soul is processing the events and emotions of your waking life. As Saturn urges you to heal and build stronger emotional foundations, it also brings an important reminder. Patience is key. Healing is not a straight line, and growth does not happen overnight. This is a process that unfolds over time, and it demands that you return to yourself again and again with honesty and care. It's easy to want fast results, especially when emotions are intense or when the desire to move forward becomes overwhelming. But Saturn in Pisces gently reminds you that true transformation cannot be rushed. It requires presence, discipline, and a willingness to stay the course even when things feel unclear or progress feels slow. This is not about fixing yourself all at once. It's about showing up consistently, tending to your emotional wounds with the same commitment you offer to something or someone you truly care about. There may be times during this transit when you feel as though nothing is changing, even though you're doing the inner work. That's where Saturn's lesson becomes clearest. Progress is not always visible at first. Sometimes the most profound shifts happen quietly, beneath the surface. You may not notice the strength you are building until a future challenge arises, and you realize you were handling it with more grace, more stability, and more wisdom than ever before. That's how Saturn works. It teaches through lived experience, and it builds strength over time. The work you're doing now, whether it's journaling, meditating, confronting fears, or simply showing up for yourself emotionally, is laying the foundation for a more balanced and resilient future. Even the discomfort that arises during this time serves a purpose. The difficult emotions, the confusion, the doubts, they are all part of the process. Saturn does not sugarcoat the journey, but it also does not abandon you. Its influence might feel stern or demanding, but it's never cruel. It holds you accountable because it knows what you're capable of. It pushes you because it sees the potential within you. And through this, it teaches one of the most important lessons of all, that you are worthy of your own attention, your own care, and your own effort. Saturn in Pisces doesn't just encourage healing, it teaches you how to make healing a sustainable, lifelong practice. This period is also a chance to reevaluate your emotional boundaries. Pisces energy is known for its openness, for its ability to feel everything deeply. While this is a gift, it can also become overwhelming if boundaries are not clearly defined. Saturn brings the clarity needed to see where your energy may be leaking, where you may be overextending yourself emotionally, or where you may be taking on burdens that are not yours to carry. It helps you to reclaim your space, to protect your inner world without closing off your heart. Emotional boundaries are not about isolation. They're about protection and clarity. They allow you to be present with others while staying grounded in yourself. As you move through this transit, the invitation is not just to survive emotionally, but to thrive. You are learning how to take responsibility for your emotional well-being, how to turn inward with courage, and how to commit to your healing journey without expecting it to be fast or easy. This is the kind of growth that lasts, the kind that builds you from the inside out, steady and strong. The emotional and spiritual work you do now will shape the way you show up in the world, the way you connect with others, and the way you support yourself through future storms. Saturn in Pisces asks you to build a new relationship with yourself, one that is rooted in truth, supported by structure, and fueled by a deep, enduring sense of self-compassion. This time opens a portal into the unseen, a doorway into the spiritual and intuitive parts of your existence that often go unnoticed in the rush of daily life. It brings you closer to the energy of Pisces, a sign that lives in the realm of the mystical, the symbolic, and the deeply intuitive. As Saturn moves through this water sign, it anchors that otherworldly energy with structure and intention. This moment becomes an invitation to strengthen your relationship with your intuition, to tune into the subtle whispers that guide you, the quiet nudges that lead you down paths not always visible to the eye. If you've been seeking signs, hoping for direction, or feeling the need for deeper clarity in life, this is a time when the universe is especially willing to meet you halfway. The alignment of Saturn in Pisces does not just encourage intuitive insight, it teaches you how to trust what you sense and feel on a soul level, and how to integrate that trust into practical decisions and everyday experiences. You may begin to notice synchronicities more frequently, those seemingly random events or symbols that feel too meaningful to be mere coincidence. These are not accidental. They are messages, guidance from the unseen realms responding to your openness. As your awareness sharpens, you'll find that the universe is constantly in conversation with you. Numbers that repeat, dreams that linger, random thoughts that bring sudden clarity, these are all part of the dialogue. Saturn helps you not only to recognize these signs, but to interpret them with maturity and discernment. Intuition is not just a vague feeling or spiritual fantasy. It is a real, intelligent system within you, capable of guiding you toward alignment and truth when nurtured properly. Saturn teaches you to bring discipline into that process, to not just rely on feeling, but to pair it with reflection, consistency, and integration. The more you trust your intuition, the more you will see how life begins to align in subtle but powerful ways. That internal voice, which may have once felt uncertain or faint, becomes stronger the more you listen. Intuition grows through practice and belief, and Saturn in Pisces is the perfect energetic backdrop for that growth. It provides the foundation for intuitive development, helping you create space in your life where stillness, reflection, and connection to the spiritual can flourish. Intuitive living does not mean abandoning logic. It means adding depth to it, allowing insight from within to inform how you move through the world. As you begin to live in harmony with your inner knowing, you'll start to notice that even your challenges begin to feel more purposeful, more like lessons than punishments. You'll see that the universe isn't just watching from a distance. It's actively guiding you, speaking to you through your own inner awareness. There is a sacred invitation within this time to get clear on what you want from your emotional and spiritual life. Saturn is a planet of intention, and its presence in the deeply emotional and spiritual waters of Pisces creates the perfect moment to ask yourself meaningful questions. What patterns are you ready to release? What kind of emotional resilience do you want to cultivate? What kind of spiritual relationship do you want to deepen? These are not surface-level reflections. They are soul-level inquiries. When you set intentions now, they are not fleeting wishes. They become energetic seeds planted in fertile spiritual ground. Saturn's presence helps ensure that your intentions are grounded, real, and backed by commitment. You're not just hoping for transformation, you're preparing for it with clarity and seriousness. Old wounds may come up, but not to haunt you. They come up to be healed. Emotional baggage that you've carried for years might feel heavier now because you are finally ready to release it. Saturn doesn't allow you to bypass the difficult emotions or spiritual confusion that might have been avoided in the past. It brings them forward not to punish you, but to give you the strength and structure to truly address and transform them. This is a powerful opportunity to rewrite your emotional narratives, to let go of stories that no longer serve you, and to reclaim your energy from experiences that have been draining your light. The work might not be easy, but it is sacred. You are healing not only your current self, but the version of you that was never fully seen or heard before. Engaging in creative practices becomes more than an outlet. It becomes a pathway to your deeper self. Whether you find that outlet through writing, drawing, music, dance, or something else entirely, it becomes a direct line to your intuition and your emotional truth. Pisces energy is naturally expressive in a non-linear, artistic way, and Saturn helps you turn that expression into something consistent and nourishing. The structure Saturn brings doesn't limit creativity. It protects it, nurtures it, and helps it grow stronger. It supports you in setting time aside to create, reflect, and explore your inner world. And as you build that discipline, you begin to see how creativity and healing are not separate processes. They are one and the same. You create not just art, but understanding. You express not just beauty, but your truth. Meditation, too, becomes a powerful ally during this time. It is through silence that many of the answers you're seeking will come. The mental chatter quiets, the emotional noise softens, and the guidance you've been asking for can finally reach you. Saturn encourages consistency in these practices. It is not about meditating once in a while when you re-overwhelmed. It is about creating space every day, even if only for a few minutes, to come back to yourself. This builds a relationship with your inner world that is stable, grounded, and nourishing. Meditation helps you process your thoughts, listen to your body, and align your energy. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. Journaling offers a practical bridge between your inner world and your external experiences. As you write down your thoughts, emotions, dreams, and intentions, you're not only capturing moments, you're clarifying your journey. Journaling gives shape to the formless. It turns intuition into insight, feelings into understanding, and dreams into direction. Saturn's energy helps you bring consistency to this practice, so it becomes a daily ritual of alignment rather than a scattered habit. Over time, these entries become more than just reflections. They become records of your transformation, living proof of your emotional evolution and spiritual awakening. This time also asks you to trust the process, especially when the changes are slow or subtle. Saturn is not about instant results. It is about steady progress. It rewards dedication, not shortcuts. True transformation takes time, and Saturn ensures that every step you take is building something lasting and meaningful. If things feel slow or unclear, know that this is part of the unfolding. The work you're doing now is invisible at first, because it's happening at the root level, within your beliefs, your nervous system, your emotional patterns. That kind of change can't be rushed. It's quiet, deep, and intentional. The energy of Saturn in Pisces teaches you to value that process, to find meaning not just in outcomes, but in the steps you take to get there. Every moment of stillness, every breath of awareness, every choice to stay present rather than escape. These are the real milestones. They're the quiet victories that form the backbone of your transformation. As you continue forward, grounded in intention and guided by intuition, you're building something stronger than any external success. You're building alignment, emotional clarity, and spiritual maturity.